Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tracy's Takes. Today, we're going to go full spoiler review with Captain America Brave New World. I waited this long because I really wanted to give everyone at least 2 weekends to catch the movie. I know sometimes in busy adult life, you may have all the good intentions to watch the movie the first weekend, but then things happen and you don't get around to watching it until the second weekend goes around. So now it is Tuesday. I figure if you were gonna watch it, you probably already have. If not, then you're probably gonna try to wait for streaming. But full disclosure, this will be a open spoiler discussion. Um, what we do here on my channel is we do talk about movies and TV shows. I give you my opinion, my insight about the show or movie, and hopefully that informs you on whether or not you want to give that movie or TV show a shot yourself. So opening out here, I just want to preface that Captain America had a pretty good opening. It was projected to open at, I think, 90 to 95 million opening weekend. It made about 88.1, 88.2, which wasn't bad at all, considering that they projected about 90 to 95 anyway. It's a little low on the Marvel standard, but when you consider that you're having a Captain America movie without Steve Rogers, many people probably didn't even watch Falcon and the Winter Soldier on Disney Plus, so you have a new movie that most people just aren't very interested in because they don't know what's going on. So for that, having an $88 million opening was pretty good. What's unfortunate about that, though, is that it had a 68% drop from week one to week two, or weekend one to weekend two, which doesn't seem like a big deal, but what you really want for a movie is about a 50% drop or less, um, unless your movie was a very high grossing opening weekend. Like if we're talking Spider-Man No Way Home, Infinity War, Endgame, where everybody pretty much came out to watch it opening weekend. And any money you're getting at this point is probably going to be people doing rewatches or the few stragglers that missed it because they couldn't find good seating. But for the most part, the majority of your fan base and people who were curious in the movie watched it the first weekend. So having a 68% drop on your second weekend when you only open to $88 million dollars doesn't bode well for the film, unfortunately. I liked the film. I thought it was a good film. It wasn't top tier Marvel. It wasn't a great Marvel movie. And I know a lot of us look at Marvel movies now with rose tinted glasses because we went through a whole Infinity Saga. It ended so satisfyingly, and it's hard for us to see these movies now without comparing them to previous movies. But I personally try to watch every movie, regardless if it had any precursors, um, as its own individual movie and try to give it enough breathing room to impress me on its own without trying to compare it to something else. But again, unfortunately, a 68% drop. I'm sure Marvel, the heads at Marvel, were not happy to hear that outcome, especially when I discussed this with my wife before the movie came out. I was actually looking at the box office and what was going to come out after Captain America Brave New World. And in my opinion at the time, I felt like it had a great platform to grow from because even if it didn't have a great opening weekend, there was really nothing coming out again until like Mickey 17 in March. So to see 68% when there was really nothing to compete with it is unfortunate for sure. I'm sure people at Marvel are a little concerned with that second weekend drop for sure. So I'm gonna just dive right into what I liked and didn't like about the movie. As I mentioned before, I liked the movie. It was a good movie. It just wasn't a great movie. I mentioned in my overview of the movie, the non-spoiler review that I made, uh, actually my first video, I did discuss that there were a few creative choices I didn't like. I'm going to get into that a little bit more detail here today. So I'm going to start out with the opening scene of the movie just to get the ball rolling here. So the opening scene, it is shown in the trailer You see Captain America fly down, he lands hero landing, wings out, he fights the bad guys in his warrior. Um, the reason why I'm bringing it up first is because you don't see this in the trailer, but the fight choreography is a little sluggish in the opening scene. I think that was maybe a bad choice to have that be your opening for your fan base. To see that, it did improve, but that fight scene was one of the first action scenes you see, and it just kind of pulls you out. Like, I hope it's not going to be like this the whole time. But like I mentioned, it does improve. So it doesn't take you away from the movie or anything. It's just something to note. Anthony Mackie, as I mentioned in my overview, the non-spoiler review was fantastic. He stole the show. This was definitely a movie that he wanted the fans to enjoy, and he poured his all into it. Harrison Ford as well. Harrison Ford actually shocked me with his performance portraying President Ross, Thaddeus Ross. He did a great, fantastic job. I think he understood filling in the shoes for the previous actor that played the role, and he really gave a above par performance all the way around. The character that played Isaiah Bradley, though, he stole the show in every scene he was in. There was a few scenes with him and the new Falcon and Captain America. There was a few scenes with just him and Captain America. And each time he was on the screen, you can just feel the actor level rise, the bar being raised. Like, everybody around him understood that you have to meet this guy here if you want to be in the same film with him. And it really did bring out some great acting. Some of the best highlights of the movie were when that character was on the screen. Harrison Ford did a really good job playing President Ross and expressing that he was really a man in search of redemption. He has made some mistakes in the past, to say the least. And now that he has made it to the role of president, he is trying to redeem himself, not just with society and the nation, but also with his daughter, who he has been estranged from since the events of The Incredible Hulk, when he was aggressively pursuing Bruce Banner, which at the time was her love interest. And he does revisit that estrangement from his daughter a few times in the movie. And Harrison Ford does a good job showing the emotion that he feels when he is talking about his daughter. And there is a really nice scene where he calls and she actually picks up, and you can see the emotion in his face. He does a good job in that scene for sure. Gonna go ahead and bury the hatchet here. She does not show up when I think the movie needed her to show up the most. That was during the Red Hulk phase of the movie, but I'll get back to that here in a second. There was a Black Widow character in the movie. I think that it was just a strange choice of direction, a strange choice of casting. The actor, I'm not pulling anything away from the actress herself. I'm sure she's a fantastic actress. As a matter of fact, in the scenes that she was in, her acting was not the problem. They just had her doing some things that, because she's of the shorter stature and she's a smaller frame, they had her doing some things that are just unbelievable. Kind of super soldier-esque. You know, there's one scene where she's down this hallway and there's about 5 or 6 pretty burly big guys, and she dispatches of them like no problem, and it makes you think to yourself, well, if she maybe caught 1 or 2 slipping, that will be okay, but for you to be face to face with these 5 or 6 big dudes, military trained guys, and you just took care of all of them, it just felt unrealistic. And like I said, she really was misused in the movie. I really don't know maybe she was part of the original plot. Maybe she had a bigger role in the original plot because she felt oddly placed in this movie. Speaking of miscast, Giancarlo Esposito's character, Sidewinder, he did a great job with what he had. He gave it his all in every scene he was in, which was not much. But I feel like when you have a talent like Esposito in a movie, when you went out and you got somebody of that caliber, um, you don't waste them on a sidewinder character that maybe has 15 minutes in a movie. Like because now you could have placed that caliber of actor somewhere else on a bigger role, and you've kind of locked him into this sidewinder character, who I honestly think after the disappointing box office that they had with this movie, we probably won't even ever see again. So you just went out and got somebody who was like top tier actor, and you really put him in a shoebox here, and you're never going to be able to open it. I did not like that. I didn't like that at all. Poor choice. Poor choice. Um, which leads me to another poor choice. The leader. It was not the actor. It was not the aesthetic. It was not the way he looked or the way the actor portrayed the character. It was honestly a script issue. They they tell you in the movie, and you kind of get this from the comics if you ever read them or if you watch The Incredible Hulk, you kind of know that this guy is a genius. Already smart, but then he gets his brain blood mixed with Hulk's blood in his brain and becomes this super genius, kind of a supercomputer when it comes to probability. And you can buy into that, in the movie, but then there's some decisions that are made that's like, what? Like, if you are this smart, like, I'm watching a movie from the big screen in the theater, eating my popcorn, drinking my Fanta, and I would have made this choice differently 100 times, and I have none of the problems you have. There's a plot device in the movie where he is able to pretty much instantly brainwash people to do what he wants them to do without any contact with them. Just shows you his genius level intellect that you can just pull that off with a series of sounds and music notes, and he just figures this out because President Ross has had him locked away in pretty much a dungeon for the last 16, 17 years with that super brain. But then he makes some interesting choices with that. His ultimate goal is to basically strip down and break down President Ross, show the world that he is still the monster that he used to be. And the reason why he wants to do this is because President Ross promised him, well, Thaddeus Ross promised him that once he helped him become president, once he used his probability skills to show him what he needed to do to get himself in a position to run for president and then ultimately win the race, he would let him go. And because he still needed him for some heart pills that you see later on ended up being another flight device. But he basically reneged on that promise. So he decides, okay, well, I'll take matters into my own hands. And once he frees himself, then he decides, okay, well, now my goal is to destroy you. A couple things about that I don't understand is that if you have the smarts to free yourself, why not do it 16 and a half years ago? I mean, why remain president there? It makes no sense. Another thing is, if your plan is to ruin Thaddeus Ross, President Ross, and you can brainwash anybody you want, and you're going around him and brainwashing people who he's close to and people who may come in contact with him for this plot device, why not just brainwash the president? I mean, it's to be much faster, much more streamlined. You just cut the middleman out. You got him. Beep, beep. Make him do something stupid, and he's ruined. Didn't like that, and I feels like they just kind of wrote that in some of the reworks of the movie because they just needed to make this bad movie a better movie. Didn't like it. Didn't like the choices that he was making. Ultimately, it leads up. So he was basically, Thaddeus Ross had a heart attack. He went to the leader for help because he found out he was going to die. His ticket was going out. Thaddeus Ross asks the leader to come with these pills that keeps him alive. He doesn't tell Thaddeus Ross, though, that the pills are irradiated with gamma radiation through and through. His back plot is that he's going to eventually turn Thaddeus Ross into a Hulk. He plans to unleash the Hulk somewhere public, showing that not only is he a monster mentally, but he's physically a monster. No one should want him around. No one should trust anything he ever says or does. And to some success, he's able to, with the pills, enrage Hulk enough through some really stupid tropes, like he tries to do it through a phone call. He could have just ended the phone call. It was dumb. But he eventually was able to embarrass Thaddeus Ross in front of the press, which sends him over the edge, and then you see that big fight ensue in the trailer. So I'm not going to recap the whole fight. You pretty much saw the whole thing in the trailer. It was good, but they really buried the hatchet with the trailer. There's only a few scenes here or there that you don't see in the trailer. For the most part, you get the full fight in the trailer. Going back to the part about Betty, this is where I thought they really should have used Thaddeus Ross's daughter. They were able to use Sam Wilson to kind of talk him down, which I get it with his VA work with PTSD veterans and being able to reach people even in their darkest moments. I get that, but I feel like there was a opportunity missed there. If you're going to have the President Ross character, talk about his need to reconcile with his daughter, and you're going to keep bringing that up, and I feel like a big opportunity was missed, and it's felt in the movie. You kind of even feel like when you're watching it, okay, any moment she's going to show up, and then she doesn't, and it's kind of like, oh, so we did all this just for Sam to talk him down. That was kind of feels lackluster. But he was able to do so. He gets locked up at the raft. He relinquishes the presidency because obviously you can't have a Hulk as president. Even though I think it would be kind of cool to have a Hulk as president, but I get why narratively you can't have a raging Hulk in the White House. And that's pretty much the movie. There is a post-credit scene with the leader and Sam Wilson, Captain America, having a conversation. It was dumb. Why was Sam there? Like, he didn't have anything to say to the leader. He really just walks up and says, "You lost that bet," and because he told Falcon or Sam Wilson that he was the Thaddeus Ross was going to end up killing him, and that didn't happen. So, and then the leader gets into this multiverse conversation, and then he cuts to black. I really don't see the point of them putting that in the movie. They could have just not had a post-credit scene. That's what they're trying to give us. But I said all that to give you my overview of the movie. There was some redeeming parts about the movie, as I mentioned. Sam Wilson was fantastic in the movie. Harrison Ford was fantastic in the movie. The new Falcon was very nice. The chemistry between him and Captain America, the new Captain America, Sam Wilson, was good. The action scenes between the Captain America and the Red Hulk was great. The fight over the ocean over Tiamat was great. There were a few choices politically that I didn't make any sense, but it was either here or there for the movie. I get it though. They had a movie that was crap. Kevin Feige got his power back, like I mentioned in the first review, and he looked at what he had and did the best that he could. And he made a good movie out of something that I'm assuming had to be horrible. So I give him props for props is due. He was able to take this thing and make it something worth watching. And I enjoyed it. My wife enjoyed it. We had a good Valentine's night watching the movie. But it just wasn't. It wasn't top tier for sure. It was not a top tier Marvel movie. But all in all, it was good. It was a good movie. If you haven't seen it already and you watching this video anyway, do yourself a favor and do Marvel a favor and go check it out because not many people are watching in the theaters. So, yeah, that's all I have for this video. I am going to wrap it up here. Thank you guys for sticking with me through this episode of Tracy's Takes. I will see you on the next one. Until next time, take care.